Welcome to the Food City Center in Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the Volunteers, ranked number 20 in all of college basketball, as Tennessee gets ready to take on the Rice Owls of the American. Welcome, everybody. He is the former Tennessee Volunteer, Dane Bradshaw. I am Mike Morgan. Little March Madness type of feel on a Monday night, but in the month of November. And we take a look at this matchup. You're going to see one of the best freshmen in all of college basketball in Nate Ament.
He's unbelievable. This kid not only has a high ceiling with a ton of potential, he has immediate production as well. He can score at the rim. He's got great touch, 5 to 15 feet, and then he can also step out and hit the three. Relentless work ethic, great attitude. You can see why Coach Barnes and them love having him as their go-to player.
Akpara jumping center, and Tennessee controls the opening tip. The Vols in white, the Rice Owls out of Houston, Texas in navy blue. Tennessee coming in 3-0 on the young season. It's the fourth different starting lineup for Tennessee tonight, and there is the talented freshman right on cue. Nate Ament gets the first bucket.
You just rarely see him over-penetrate. He gets to a spot and makes the game extremely simple.
See the starting five for the Rice Owls. They are led by Trey Broadnax, a 6'4" guard, averaging 16.5 points per game. If they're going to pull off an upset tonight, he needs to play big for the Owls.
And look for Tennessee to really defend the three-point line. Rice has shot right at 40% early in this season from deep. Got to make them beat you from two.
A one-on-one, late clock, a leaner thrown up there, and a prayer that does not hit the rim. So a shot clock violation as Broadnax had to force that one.
Well, and that's Tennessee pressure defense, just relentless. They kept Rice completely outside the three-point line while taking away the three. Rice has got to get their head down, try to get a paint touch.
Rice with a little full court pressure here to start things off. Jacoby Gillespie, talented guard out of Maryland that everybody wanted in the portal. The Tennessee Volunteers land him. Gets it here off the curl. Jump pass up to the talented freshman. Ament pulls the trigger on a three and misses badly, and then he fouled down low, as fighting for the rebound was Akpara, but he was held.
Ament is not bashful. I mean, he'll let it fly. And you see earlier in this game, he's not deferring to anybody else. He's looking for his. One thing Coach Barnes said, he's got to work on his shot selection, especially from deep. His three-point percentage is lower than it needs to be. It's around 29% early in this season. But with better shot selection, that'll go up.
First paint touch of the game for Tennessee. And there's a little hook shot by Akpara as he gets into the scoring column.
And that's where Tennessee has really dominated teams early in this season, is just the depth of bigs and quality of bigs they have down there.
And we welcome everybody to Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the 20th ranked Volunteers. Mike Morgan, Dane Bradshaw. The Volunteers leading the Rice Owls with a 4-2 lead in the early going. Tennessee led by the talented freshman number 10 in white, Nate Ament, who's already hit the scoring column on a baseline jumper. And Dane, for those that have not seen Nate Ament, he is a special, special player.
I mean, some guys come in with a lot of hype because they have a ton of potential. Others come in with potential and production, and that's who Nate Ament has been so far. And I just love the fact he doesn't shy away from the game and wants the ball in his hands.
That's the leading scorer for the Owls, Trey Broadnax. If the name sounds familiar, his father was on a national championship team for the Georgetown Hoyas. Horace Broadnax. A rare three fired by Akpara. You okay with that shot?
Early, yeah. I think Coach Barnes will let him have one of those trailer threes, but probably not late game.
Foul over the back on Tennessee, and Rice will take it out of bounds here at the 17:25 mark.
Well, and as Akpara comes over for the block, nobody rebounds down on the other side. It becomes an advantage for Rice on the interior. Something you'll rarely say in this game, given the size that Tennessee has in their front court compared to Rice.
And a lot of people might be seeing Tennessee for the first time, Dane. The schedule's about to get much tougher for the Volunteers. They have dominated non-conference play really the last couple of years. 3-0 right now, but safe to say Rick Barnes might still be learning about his squad.
Oh, absolutely. They've had a different lineup, every single game so far, and trying to figure out exactly what the best rotations are. They've got the versatility. They can play extremely.
A rim rocker by Akpara.
And what Rob Lanier for Rice said to his team was, you can't let the roller get below you. And that's exactly what happened there with Akpara.
Smith backing in. They're working around. Broadneck's on the triple. Misfires. Offensive rebound. A second one for Rice, but then coughed it right back up to the Volunteers and Akpara.
Tennessee has just always done such a nice job of setting their ball screens pretty high around the elbow, and it just creates a lot of space for the defense to have to recover on that roll.
A lot of new guards for Tennessee. It's weird not seeing some of those familiar names like a Ziegler from a year ago, but Gillespie, who you just saw fighting for the loose ball, is going to be taking over that role, and he's another guy from the portal that they expect big things from.
Yeah, big shoes to fill when you think about the legends of Kai Ziegler and what he did for this Tennessee team, and just really two different types of players. Gillespie, more of a natural scorer. He's got a floater to his game, probably a better three-point shooter, whereas Ziegler, of course, was the head of the snake, heart and soul of the team. But Zero and White, make no mistake about it, he's got some guts to him too. He's been a winner his entire career, including as a prep.
Led the Big Ten while at Maryland with 87 three-pointers last year. Foul, I believe, on the floor before the shot was blocked. We'll see if they give him free throws or not.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to give him two, and if you're Tennessee, you're going to be pretty frustrated with that. Just driving straight down the court with your right hand, getting to the rim, foul. Looks like that's Berg, not turning the defender.
So to the free throw line, Trey Broadnax. I mentioned his father, Horace Broadnax, great player at Georgetown. He's here tonight. Broadnax was a former coach himself not long ago at Savannah State. Trey Broadnax played his high school ball in Savannah, Georgia. 6'4", 200 pounds, averaging nearly 17 points per game. We had a chance to catch up with Trey before the game. Just a really delightful young man, but one thing that Coach Lanier told us, we need him to be more vocal.
And he's worked a lot on his leadership. Broadnax is a terrific player, and he's a terrific person. And Coach Lanier said, hey, you can't just do that in a silo by yourself. Use that to impact others, and that's something he's done much better this season.
Strong take by Estrella, and that's a young man who's been playing outstanding basketball. J.P. Estrella just continues to have career night after career night here in the early going.
This is where Tennessee has a lob or a corner three.
There's the lob. There's the slam. Akpara giving the rim a workout here on a couple of slam dunks.
And that's the dilemma as a defender, is you're like, I can't help off of Ament, yet if nobody's there to protect the basket, you see what happens.
Tennessee once again bringing the beef and the length. Rick Barnes always seems to have one of the biggest front courts in the Southeastern Conference. Shot clock at 10. Hobbs pulls the trigger on a three. Can't find it, and there's Estrella in traffic. Has it ripped away into the hands of Gillespie. And Gillespie will set up the offense in half court. Estrella, paint touch. Estrella down low. Little hook shot is good.
It's so nice to see him playing with such confidence after that injury last year, and he is having himself quite the season. But on that baseline out of bounds, when you have your best shooter and best scorer be a good screener, it's going to open up big things for everybody else, and you can't throw it too high for Akpara.
Tennessee with an early 5-point lead here in Knoxville. A little Monday Night Madness. Mike Morgan alongside the former Tennessee Volunteer, Dane Bradshaw. And Dane, we talked about it at the top, but for those that don't know already, if you're watching tonight, you're going to see one of the best freshmen in America in Nate Ament.
He's so talented. He really is. He can take bigger players off the bounce. But if you try to put a smaller player on him to cut him off, he'll just score right over the top. He gets to a spot, 5 to 8 feet, great touch. He can go off the bounce, makes the game so simple, rise over the top. If you try to play a step off, forget about it. He'll just shoot from deep. He's got that great vision, great confidence, and he is absolutely wired to score.
A young man who's, like you said, a bucket getter and a guy who was recruited by virtually everybody, the preseason newcomer of the year in the SEC.
And we think back 2 years ago, of course, Dalton Connect had that dog in him. He wanted the ball in his hands when the team was down on the road. Chaz Lanier comes in last year, a terrific shooter, but was deferring at times. Ament has a little bit more of that Connect mentality of get me the ball.
They're getting Broadnax the ball. That's ordinarily good news, the leading scorer for Rice, but he's off to a chilly start. Rice just 1 of 8 from the field thus far. Brick fired up, but Tennessee chases down the loose basketball. That's Berg on the board.
Well, he's shooting NBA threes from college range right now. From my left side is Ament.
Nice box out by the Owls. Rice hanging in there. Broadnax full throttle. And a great job defensively to slow him down by Ethan Berg. Played some brawl overseas in Israel. Rick Barnes always finds those overseas gems, doesn't he? A lot of foreign-born players on his roster over the years. Broadnax lines up a triple. Still can't find it.
Well, he's going to have to keep firing. If Rice is going to have any chance in this game, they've got to continue to connect from deep. Shooting 40% from 3 as a team early in this season.
Broadnax is now 0 for 7 and 0 for 5 from downtown. Needs someone to take the lid off right now. Gillespie says I'll pull the trigger on a 3 as well. We have seen 10 3-point attempts in this game. Not one of them has dropped. That's where we need a Dane Bradshaw assist to turnover ratio to rectify things as you get a look at Coach Rob Lanier. And Rob Lanier and Rick Barnes, of course, go way, way back. Second season as the head coach of Rice. He was the head coach of SMU, was relieved of his duties, but Rick Barnes has always been a big support of Coach Lanier over time. They go back to Texas and then, of course, at Tennessee for a long time. And when you hear Rick Barnes talk about Rob Lanier and vice versa, just a ton of mutual respect for one another.
Yeah, he's salt of the earth, is Coach Lanier. This guy's just a remarkable leader, mentor, recruiter. And when you spend most of your career under Rick Barnes and have his trust and tutelage, as well as Billy Donovan, where he was on the Florida staff, that tells you all you need to know when you are associated with those two head coaches. He's got a great opportunity, a tough one here at Rice.
I like what he said about the Rice job, because we asked him, you know, a lot of people will tell you Rice hasn't been to a tournament since 1970. It's a very difficult job with the academics. He said, you know what, I was a bit jaded. I'm not anymore. What I love about this job, these are kids that are not worried about NIL deals. They're not going to be threatening to leave for the portal every year. These are kids that really love the college experience.
And they value the education at Rice as well. So he felt like the chances to have retention in his program may go up at Rice. And so most likely in a one-bid league, could it be the year for them?
And there's a triple knocked down by Ethan Berg. Lead swells to 6 for Tennessee. 7 minutes into the action here in Knoxville. Good crowd on hand for a mid-November Monday night.
You see Abram heating up the ball there. That's great ball pressure, and then that's why it's going to keep him in the rotation.
And then trying to find Berg ahead of the pack. Ball squirts out of bounds. It'll be Tennessee ball.
Well, here's the freshman from Grand Prairie, Texas, Cam Carroll. He hits a big bucket for Rice just a minute ago, and then of course Berg came down with the 3. But I was about to mention Abram and his ball pressure. I mean, this guy, that's what he was recruited for, to be another elite defender under Rick Barnes.
You got a timeout on the floor with 12:44 to go. Tennessee on top 13-7. Again, the Volunteers coming in 3-0. What are we looking at here? It looks like we've got
previous play of out of bounds is being challenged by Rice.
Well, we were just
call on the floor is Tennessee ball.
Okay. Now here we have it. Officiating crew: Jeb Hartness, Don Daly, Patrick Evans. Dane, you and I had a long officiating discussion moments before this ball game with the one and only Mike Eads, and we were talking, among other things, about this new system and going to the replay center. I like it so far.
Yeah, they're stealing a page out of the NBA's playbook, and not totally like the NBA. You must have a timeout in order to make a challenge, and it's got to be something that the official can't review on their own. And so they're going to take a look at this out of bounds and see if that should be Rice basketball.
Goodness.
The only interesting part on that is, you know, this early in the game, that sort of play is this
consequential.
Yeah.
But that's why I like the rule, because before the challenge system, we would look at perhaps 7 of these before we even got to the nitty-gritty of the game.
Yeah, especially late game. And that's what's really helped speed the thing up towards the end of.
I think it's a win-win. If you are right, you get to keep the timeout and have another challenge. If you're wrong, you're done. So you can't just haphazardly challenge a bunch of 50-50 balls. We don't want the game slowed down any more than it needs to be, right?
That's right. And if you're successful, you obviously get your timeout back or challenge back, and you can use that a second time. But that's the most you can use is 2 of them.
As of right now, the SEC is the only league that does this. I have a feeling other leagues will copycat this, because I think it's just a win-win. Now, it's taken a little longer than we perhaps thought, but we'll have a verdict here. Don Daly racing over. Don Daly now saying they're having trouble seeing it from there too. Okay. Yeah. No pressure, Dane. You go ahead and make the call, buddy.
They're looking at camera angles and trying to get various views. So we got some camera angles over here as well. So
I always find when I have a tough decision to make in life, I just call Dane Bradshaw, much like Don Daly just did, and say, Dane, what do you think?
They've got all the assists they need, but a little explanation of Don Daly having some technical difficulties as to why it's taking him a little bit longer here.
After further review, the challenge is successful. It'll be Rice's ball. Rice retains their timeout.
Okay, so then Rice will have another challenge. What did Rick Barnes tell us? We asked him, have you done it so far this year? Challenge to call. He said, yeah, I did it once in a game just to see for fun. I really didn't. It wasn't really a big deal. We were up big, but I just wanted to test it out.
Well, to have them have some practice. So needless to say, I don't think Barnes cares about his success rate in percentage per challenge if he was willing to sacrifice one early.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if he's going to argue much with 12:45 to go in the first half of this one either. A little full court pressure here displayed by Tennessee. And Owls having a tough time, and it's going to be a 5-second call. Jalen Smith could not find anybody open in blue.
And Rice got caught off guard there. They thought Tennessee was just going to set up in their half-court defense. So here's this sort of triangle play they have here again, where they can back screen and then try to get that corner 3. Just so many options out of that same set.
Brilliant play off the inbounds, and tell you what, Ethan Bird would love to have that one back. That was tailor-made for a deuce.
Well, Abrams going to back screen, so you got to protect the lob. You're worried about that, and then here, all of a sudden, here comes Berg. They just do such a nice job with their baseline out-of-bounds sets.
And they'll peel back after the inbounds as Hobbs takes it up for the Owls. 13-7 our score. 12.5 minutes remaining in the first half here in Knoxville. Volunteers trying to make it 4-0 on the young season. Tennessee, one of the half a dozen SEC teams ranked here in the early going, and another turnover. That'll be the 4th. 2-on-1, give and go, bucket. Perfect offense in transition by the Volunteers.
Yeah, you can't teach it any better than that. And I think Abram has really taken on the task of guarding what I think could be the best player for Rice, Jalen Smith. Just a really good all-around player, but so far Smith has not been able to get the ball on the deck past Abram.
Stop me if you've heard this before about a Rick Barnes team suffocating defense here in the early going, as Rice has turned it over 3 consecutive possessions. Shot clock under 10. Oh, a beautiful dime dropped off, and the slam by Stephen Giwa.
There's the freshman again. Carroll gets in the lane. Great pivot work. gets an extra defender in there and makes the right pass.
Estrella can't hit, but there is Jalen Carey, which is a good sign. Rick Barnes wanting to see more out of the former Vanderbilt Commodore, who was a Tennessee killer last year.
Yeah, and he's come in and really earning his minutes. Of course, he came here to be coached hard, be pushed to his limits, and that's exactly what's happening under Coach Barnes.
Three ball from the wing, back iron, but a long rebound corralled by Giwa.
I really like the way number 1's playing right here in blue. See if he can keep getting downhill and create for himself or others.
Skip pass into the corner. Rise and fire from 15. Too strong. Top floor for the rebound. It's Jalen Carey. Gillespie, Tennessee native, the transfer. And there's an alley-oop feed. That's Carey to Estrella, big to big on the alley-oop.
Yeah, that's just such a good skill set by Carey to get the ball in the short roll. A lot of times you give a big the ball 18 feet away from the basket, it's a turnover waiting to happen, but he looked like a point guard on that.
Carey dropping 2 dimes quickly off the bench. And a throw to the official, who was open. But a timeout on the floor with 10:26 to go. Tennessee leading Rice 19-9.
Rick Barnes' defense, Abram fitting in just fine here at Tennessee. Great give and go, and the finish with the left.
Mentioned Rob Lanier, Rick Barnes go way back all the way to Austin, Texas. Longtime assistant there before following Coach Rick Barnes to Tennessee. Rob Lanier from Buffalo, New York. There's a young Rick Barnes and Rob Lanier. Not that they're old by any stretch of the imagination, but you see them back in Austin before making the move to Knoxville. And Rob Lanier paid a lot of dues as one of the better assistant coaches for Rick Barnes for a long, long time. And if you know anything about Rick Barnes, and certainly Dane, you and I have gotten to know him quite well over the years, he is so loyal to his assistants and former assistants. There's not anything he won't do for those guys, even if it means losing a coach like Rob Lanier. He told a story where he was about to lose him just before the start of the season.
Yeah, Rob Lanier had just gotten the job with him at Texas. And 1 week into the job, the Buffalo job opens up where Coach Lanier is from, and Rick Barnes says, "Hey, man, you want me to go to work for you and try to get you that job?" Yeah. He's like, "I don't know how to take that, Coach. Are you that nice, or are you not happy with me after week 1? But he just said, "Look, man, that guy will do anything in the world for you." And of course, Rob Lanier and what he's done to help rebuild this program. And to start the program, they knew they couldn't just go out and get 5 stars. I mean, yes, you see Nate Ament now, you see Kennedy Chandler, you see some of these top recruits, but it was guys like this, Kyle Alexander, Jordan Bowen, Jordan Bowden, that weren't as highly recruited. And of course, the Great Williams, Admiral Schofield, players to go with it.
There's Carey again in transition, bottled up. Tennessee will set it up in the half court. Ball stripped out of bounds. It will be Rice basketball. You and I were here quite a bit those first couple of years for Rick Barnes. This was not a situation where you just go right in and, like you said, recruit 5 stars, anything but. And remember, there was no portal back then. So a rebuild was a true 2 to 3 year grind. And then one of the games that I'll never forget, and he talked about with us earlier today, was the game in 2018, the last game of the season. You and I were on the call. They played Georgia, a win to win the SEC. They came from behind in the second half. He says that's the loudest I've ever heard this building in my time in Knoxville. And they've been in the tournament every year since that moment, as Jalen Smith delivers a triple.
Year they were picked to finish 13th in the league as well?
13th in the league, out of 14 teams. No one saw that coming. Bunch of 2-star kids. This is a 5-star kid on the bucket. Nate Ament, one of the top recruits that Tennessee has ever had.
And that's the second time they've gotten that look where they catch Rice trying to cheat the screens up and they cut back door. Abram got it earlier, couldn't convert. That time, Ament takes care of it.
Back to an 11-point cushion for the Volunteers. Anderson on a catch and fire. Too strong. Offensive rebound, Broadnax. Rice going to fire up a lot of threes. Sometimes you got to live or die by it. Shot clock at 8 now for Broadnax.
They're just not getting any of those inside-out threes.
Shot clock at 3, at 2. And a nifty move drawing the foul by Jimmy Oladokun. Jimmy Oladokun, the junior out of Los Angeles.
And we'll take a look at Ament working off the ball. You think he's going to go off those screens, and then he cuts back door. Just really nice read by the freshman. When you have a great shooter like that and you're setting 2 screens at the three-point line, the defender thinks, oh, I got to get ahead of this. I don't want him to beat me for 3. And then you cut back door.
Substitution now for both teams, including for Tennessee. That's number 6, Dwayne Brown, and he's another wide body, 6'8", 251 pounds, out of Hoover, Alabama. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Alabama.
And there's not many front courts that it's harder to break into the rotation to than this veteran, experienced Tennessee. But that's exactly what Brown has done as a freshman.
There's a certain fast food chain. What's the motto? We have the meats. Tennessee has the meat. Amen.
That was your anniversary dinner, too.
It was. Quite the romantic. Thanks for pointing that out. On the take, it's Anderson in transition. A rare, easy bucket for Rice. I did splurge for the large fries. 7:35 to go in the first half. Rice hanging around. Give him credit. Tennessee certainly bigger. A lot more stars next to the young men wearing white tonight. As Akpara on the miss for the Volunteers. Their great rim protector closing in on 200 blocked shots. Hobbs on a crossover. Drive and dish. Mid-range pull-up misses everything, and there's Ament for the rebound. 13th McDonald's All-American in school history for Tennessee. Nate Ament, number 10 in white. Abram, quick trigger.
I don't think that's a shot Barnes loves there. Just swinging around the perimeter. Try to put some pressure on the rim first. Get a kick-out 3. Instead of just pass, shoot.
Wide open 3. Got it. Best look of the night for Rice, and Nick Anderson swishes home a 3.
Well, they've got Tennessee scrambling a little bit uncharacteristically on the defensive end. They've finally gotten some penetration, and of course that opens up the 3 ball as Tennessee scrambles here. A nice corner 3, just 2 of 11 from deep, but Rice hanging in there.
.6:37 to play in the first half. It's Tennessee leading Rice 23-18 with Dane Bradshaw. I'm Mike Morgan. Thank you so much for stopping by on a Monday night in Knoxville. These two teams haven't met anywhere since 1963, December the 6th. Rice leading the all-time series 3-1. They don't play a lot of SEC opponents, not even in their home state of Texas. You would think maybe some recent matchups with Texas or Texas A&M, but Rice playing in the American Athletic Conference. See, it's the first time they've taken on an SEC opponent since 2019 against the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Pretty good record there, and they've been dominating this rivalry. 3-1. Hadn't played since 1963. Hadn't found a coach that'll play them.
Strong take. That's Jacoby Gillespie, who's been rather quiet, but they expect him to make a lot of noise this year in orange and white.
Well, if you were to tell Coach Lanier you'd be 2 of 11 from 3, your leading scorer Broadnax would be 0 for 7, and you're only down 7, he probably wouldn't believe you. But Rice is right there in this, and a large part of it because they've held their own on the glass. It's nearly even, just 13-12 Tennessee.
Shot clock now at 1. Desperation time, and just rimming off. Unable to get the bucket was Jalen Smith.
I think Tennessee's got to turn down some threes because where they've dominated this game has been in the paint. 20-4 Vols, so they got to get in there, even if they miss, create an offensive rebound opportunity.
Gillespie gets a bone-crushing screen that time by Akpara. Shot clock under 10. This is Berg. Berg at 5. Now at 3, Gillespie, long range. Got it. Around and down for Jacoby Gillespie, who grew up in Greenville, Tennessee, just 75 miles east of Knoxville.
And credit Berg there, because it looked like he was going to hoist one up as the shot clock was going down, but he was patient, got inside, kicked it out for a higher percentage off the catch 3.
Up top, Hobbs trying to respond. can't do it. Nice box out by Gillespie, but it'll be out of bounds to the Owls.
This is a deep three, but it's an in rhythm three. It's a nice penetration catch on rhythm. And Gillespie, I mean, this kid's a really talented scorer. You saw him finish at the rim. He can finish left, right. He's got a nice little floater to his game as well that I don't think many Tennessee guards in recent memory have had, that little 5-foot floater. Really good scorer.
Foul down low. That'll go against the Vols. And for Tennessee, that's the 5th team foul with 4:51 to go in the half. Tennessee has been a model of consistency. We talked about that SEC championship. They got it all rolling in 2018 under that man Rick Barnes. They have not looked back since. NCAA tournaments every year, including one of 3 programs in the country to make it to the last 3 Sweet 16s and one of 3 programs to make it to the last 2 Elite Eights.
They've got staying power. It's just year after year, constantly in the top 25, always in the running for an SEC title. And they just keep reloading. And they've got the great mix of, yes, they will supplement their roster with transfers or 5-star freshmen, but they also have returning players to keep that culture going year after year.
Akuche at the free throw line out of St. Thomas Aquinas, a high school powerhouse down in Fort Lauderdale. When I think of Tennessee, it's always a pleasure to come here and do games. The fans love the game of basketball, even when the team is not great. But the tradition here, 13 SEC titles, 14 SEC Players of the Year, 29 All-Americans. The one thing missing is that Final Four, and you and I were talking before the game. Another alley-oop pass, well defended that time. It's not always the best team that makes it to the Final Four for a coach.
But you think 8 of the last 18 tournaments, Tennessee has been in the Sweet 16. Right. So they've been there where they can see the Final Four. They're one weekend away. And then sometimes they catch a bad break, catch a bad matchup. But they're in the running.
Well, if it was all about cliches, great guard play and defense, that's what takes you to the Final Four. Tennessee usually has great guard play and defense.
Well, and the big difference this year as we take a look at the forced turnover, good defense by Cade Phillips. When you look at a year ago, it was the depth that they did not have in the front court. Felix Okpara did his best, but they were just too thin. You had a banged up Cade Phillips. JP Estrella was out with that foot injury. And now they add Jalen Carey. They get Phillips back healthy. They get Estrella back. And then the freshman Brown. That will not be a weak spot for Tennessee this season.
Estrella was carving out space. He's doing it again. Wants a paint touch. He gets it, but Rice anticipates it and steals it. Terrific job defending the post by the Owls. That was Iguagi. Anticipation and getting the steal. Has the ball up top, working on Estrella on the other end. It takes it right at the big fella and draws the foul. That was a great play on both ends of the floor by Eternity Igagwe. 28-19. Volunteers in the lead by 9.
Well, Tennessee, yes, they are capable from 3, but they have been dominating teams early in this season in the paint, and that's what has the lead right now. 20-4 in paint points. You see the lob dunks, you see the back cuts, you see them getting downhill with their drives, finishing at the rim. And even if they do miss, again, it creates offensive rebounding opportunities. And so, yes, they run really good motion offense that get good looks from 3. And that will need to make some of those as the competition gets better. But to win the games, the opportunity right now early in this season, the non-conference mid-major, they've been doubling up people in the paint, and no different here tonight.
Well, you mentioned what they needed to improve on from a roster standpoint from a year ago. One thing you can always count on, death taxes, and the Volunteers will be at or near the top in both defense and rebound margin, and that is the case right now. In fact, their rebound margin is the second best in the country, plus 24 on the glass, Dan. That's pretty strong.
Well, you want to have an identity as a program.
Yeah.
And what do you think about, as you alluded to, when you see that man right there, you think defense and toughness. And the numbers do not lie. I mean, this is a team people hate to play against because you know how physical it's going to be. And there's nothing real gimmicky about them defensively. They'll switch if it's an emergency, but it is busting through screens, owning your matchup, and not requiring help.
Hey, there might have been a time in the SEC where you didn't need a dominating defense because, quite frankly, some of the offenses were not up to par. As Ament gets a and one on a strong take in traffic. Nate Ament with that 6'10" frame, a little bit wiry, but showing some strength here.
Yeah, and he comes down a little bit on that right ankle. Might have rolled it just a tad there as he hobbles back. But again, he's just really smart. Even when he goes in there a little bit off balance, he's got the length and the size to just shoot over the top. And so if you're an SEC opponent, you say, all right, we're going to put somebody with great length and try to make his shots more difficult. But he's fast enough and has an extra gear off the bounce that he can usually get past smaller or taller defenders all the way to the rim.
We can all agree Kevin Durant comps are kind of unfair because he's really one of the best guys to ever do it with that frame. But it's hard not to think a little bit about KD when you see a 6'10" guy that plays the way he does, and oh, by the way, was recruited by Rick Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, if Rick Barnes is showing him film of Kevin Durant, the kid's favorite player, and he looks a little bit like him, then naturally you're going to draw some comparisons. But there's only one KD.
What was your comp coming out of high school?
Coming out of high school, Mike Morgan.
Boy, you really
that's why we're
low.
all calling games together.
Yeah, I would advise a much higher bar if I knew you back then. From the elbow. Strong rebound by Carey, who's running the floor well. He looks a little quicker than he has in years past. Strong take, no whistle, a scrum, and a foul on Tennessee, I believe, is the call. Meanwhile, Abram trying to get off the deck.
Well, terrific spin move. Just got himself a little bit off balance there and hits the bottom of the backboard. And then Ament picks up a cheap foul there. And that's one way Rice has stayed in this game. I mean, they're taking their 11th trip to the line, whereas Tennessee's only gone there one time on that and one by Ament.
Yeah, I didn't have that on my bingo card. Rice in the bonus with 2:11 to go, and Tennessee not.
Yeah.
Tennessee's only drawn 3 fouls in this first half. 1-1 upcoming for Jalen Smith, the senior out of Orlando. He actually followed Coach Lanier from SMU, combo guard. He's a great story on coming over and how that all went down, because you can't go to SMU and just transfer, you can't go to Rice and transfer a bunch of credits. That's not the way it works with that great academic institution.
Yeah, and Coach Lanier said, look, it's not best for you. And so he said, okay, fine, I'll stay at SMU. And then he shows up back to his house a few hours later and said, Coach, I got a solution. I'm willing to redshirt for you at Rice, get the hours I need to so I can graduate from Rice, which was a total of 60, and let me stick around and be with you for 2 years. So this kid, he was so loyal to Rob Lanier, was Jalen Smith, that he said, you know what, I'm going to sit out a year, do more school, essentially make no money, and go from SMU to Rice, all to be with Rob Lanier. And if that doesn't tell you what you need to know about Smith and Lanier, I don't know what will. And those stories are few and far between in today's world.
Well, that's why it was so refreshing when he told it to us, because we're sitting there going, really? He decided on his own to go ahead and redshirt for no money, as you see the and one for Jacoby Gillespie, and they hope to see a lot more of that for number 0 in white. Started his career at Belmont, then all Big Ten performer for the Maryland Terps. Boy, does he fill a void. And that's the difference in today's day and age of college basketball. That would have been a 19-year-old freshman a few years ago trying to fill the void. Not anymore. Estrella on his pogo stick, battling the Rice bigs.
Estrella holding that knee. They need to stop play right now.
Oh, Estrella is down and throbbing pain and holding his left knee, and this is a scary sight for Tennessee. things got very congested. A major battle for the rebound and then loose ball, and Estrella was right in the middle of that logjam. Remember last year he missed almost the entire season with a foot injury. Back healthy and expected to do big things for Tennessee this year.
I just hope and pray this kid's okay, man.
Yeah.
I talked to him at Shoot Around Mike and just said, how excited are you to be back? And he said, man, it just killed me watching my teammates last year. I couldn't help him. Got himself back in elite
Previous
shape
plays under further
and playing
review.
with the most confidence he ever has.
He
You can
played
tell the fear on his face right now. That's Chad Newman, one of the best athletic trainers you can have in the country, tends to him.
He's going to need some help walking off the floor, and obviously the crowd, they know the value of J.P. Estrella for this team and the front court depth that you talked about earlier, Dane. All right, the officiating crew is actually asking us now for an extra look at that last play to see if anything rose to the level of a flagrant foul. We did not see anything initially. You see Estrella walking off, or should I say limping off, with the help of a couple of the trainers. Last year he only played 3 games due to the left foot injury, which he had surgery on, and as Dane mentioned to you, so happy to just be back and healthy. The officiating crew they were just looking at our monitor here, Dane, to make sure there was nothing extra on the play.
I didn't see anything extra. I know we don't have a live, not showing it to the audience because not a great look there. But to finish talking about Estrella, this kid's voice at practice was enormous. Talking on defense, they stopped practice and said, "Is anybody else going to talk?"
After further review, there's no further action on the play.
And I asked Estrella, I said, did that, vocal leadership come at some point in your career? He's like, man, I've just always been a vocal guy. I'm not afraid to use my voice. So you look at him limping off, and it's not just his point production and rebounds. That guy is an absolute leader.
Well, in a year where you've had a lot of turnover for Tennessee, as a redshirt sophomore, you have the right to be very vocal too, right? A lot of guys look up to someone who's been around this program and knows what it's like to be a volunteer. So
let me tell you, if you're not a hard worker and you're the one trying to talk, nobody wants to follow. Right. And that's not the case.
Beautiful teardrop fired up by Gillespie.
On the court, that's that floater I'm talking about that Gillespie has that we just hadn't seen much of from Tennessee backcourt players, just different styles of play. But when you're that short, if you got that, it's a real asset.
10 points by Gillespie to lead all scorers. This is the guy that Rice needs to get scoring. Broadnax continues to be ice cold, now 0 for 11, but there is Rice battling on the offensive glass. Giwa with the bucket. Tennessee had its largest lead. Now it's down to 12. Final 35 minutes of the half. Bird up top. They move it around the horn of Gillespie. Parra going to set a ball screen with 7 on the shot clock. Parra gets it back with 3. Skip pass sets up the open triple for Bird. Got it. Great ball movement by Tennessee.
Well, rarely when a 6'11" guy is posting up a 6'2" guy, does he accept, hey, come set a ball screen. Akbara wanted the ball. They eventually got it to him on the roll, and he makes a great skip pass to Bird. Akbara could feel the double team coming. He knew he had the advantage, and just really nice spacing by Tennessee as Bird starting to feel it from deep.
Parra's a guy known for block shots, dunks, and rebounds, but that was a pretty pass to find the open shooter. Tennessee starting to heat up a little bit from outside after a chilly start to this ball game.
Yeah, they've made 6 of their last 8, while Rice has been 1 of their last 10. So these last few minutes have really been critical for Tennessee to extend this lead. And Rice, that's where you want to go in the locker room and say, well, let's just keep it in single digits. But the way Tennessee has finished this half shooting the basketball, it's going to make it hard for Rice to come back from a deficit like this on the road.
So Rice with the use it or lose it timeout here, trying to get something positive going into the locker room. Their largest deficit of the game now, 15 points. And you mentioned earlier, despite the fact that their leading scorer is 0 for 11, they've been hanging around for quite some time based on some of the damage they've actually done on the glass and down low. Full court pressure. Gillespie trying to force a turnover. He was one of the better steal guys in the Big Ten last season.
Well, now you got a spot throw in, can't run the baseline, and a really tough spot there in the corner.
Gillespie, who had 69 steals last year as a Maryland Terp. Clock down to 5. And a bump foul on Tennessee, and that's going to send Rice to the free throw line.
Yeah, they were trying a little run and jump, maybe trap the ball handler, and Cade Phillips just sticks his forearm out. Looks like he got him right to the neck area. Yeah, I mean, you got to slide your feet, but Cade Phillips not accustomed to really being out there with a guard. They were trying a little bit different of a press trap as opposed to their traditional man-to-man.
It's the second foul on Phillips, and it's the 3rd point for Broadnax, who came in averaging 16.5 points per game. Two for 2 for the senior out of Savannah. Now Tennessee will take its use it or lose it, trying to set something up with 4.8 on the clock.
I don't know that this is the time for it here, or that they'll get a full court press from Rice, but it was interesting to see. We talked about the connection between Coach Lanier and Coach Barnes, and the end of shoot around for Coach Lanier, they start running this full court play called ladder, where the inbounds passer throws it in and it gets tossed right back to him. Full court. Tennessee fans will remember that play for Jordan Gainey on the road at Illinois last year. And so the coaching tree of Rick Barnes and where they got that play from is being used at Rice as well. They sent a big game into overtime, and one of their first wins last season on that play did Rice.
That's one thing about both these coaches knowing each other so well. There are no surprises in either playbook, right?
No, I don't think many. And just because you know it's coming doesn't mean you can stop it. I think that's sort of the DNA and identity for both of these clubs.
They'll stack it up at midcourt. Gillespie will throw it in for Tennessee.
Now, he is their fastest ball handler. See if they throw it right back to him.
Yep. There it is. Splits the double, and he draws a foul, but Rice had a couple to give. Kind of an NBA strategy. You don't always see that in the college game.
He's just so quick, though. I mean, what was it, 3.8 on the clock?
Yeah.
I mean, so he throws it in, gets it back, gets to half court in less than a second.
Now you've got 2.9 to do some damage. Gillespie tries a pull-up midcourt shot, and Smith had the block. A nice defense there by Jalen Smith. A good effort overall from Rice. Tennessee leading it by 13. Dane Bradshaw, your thoughts?
Well, if you're Gillespie, your dream was always to be Tennessee point guard, and that's going to come with some criticism from coach as you head into the halftime. Welcome to being Barnes' point guard.
Feeling a little bit of the wrath, as many of the guards do throughout time in Knoxville under one Rick Barnes. Overall, good start to this ball game for Tennessee. It's an 11-point lead for the Vols. A timeout, and then Studio takes over. Welcome back to Knoxville, Tennessee. A 13-point lead for the number 20 team in America. Tennessee 39-26 over the Rice Owls, trying to improve to 4-0 on the season. We welcome you back inside. He's the former Volunteer, Dane Bradshaw. I'm Mike Morgan. Great to be with you. And Dane, When you talk about Tennessee, there's a lot of newcomers and a lot of different guys that can put the ball in the basket. Distribution, though, has been their key.
Yeah, under Rick Barnes, it's always been a high level of assists compared to field goals made, and you see it no differently here tonight. Yes, they've got stars in Ament and Gillespie, but man, can they share the rock. Coming into this game, averaging 23 assists per game. That's second in the country, and so far in this one, they have continued to share the ball. 11 assists on 17 made field goals, and that's fun to play in that sort of system. As a player, if you can be a willing passer and know that if you turn one down, there's a good chance you'll get it back later from your teammate, it just becomes extremely contagious. You see the bigs getting involved with their distribution as well. I love this play right here. Carey doing a little point center action. And this is just a very skilled Tennessee team, 1 through 5.
Maybe the most amazing number of all for Rice is that they were even Steven on the glass, 19 rebounds each side. Other than that, Tennessee with the upper hand on most other categories, including the ones Dane just alluded to, the 11 assists on the 17 made field goals. What are your impressions now? I mean, you've seen Tennessee 3.5 games. They're about to be really battle tested. We'll talk about the rest of the schedule later on, but you're seeing more and more of that man Jacoby Gillespie, the freshman phenom Nate Ament. As you kind of take a little bit of a analysis of this team as a whole, what's your takeaway so far?
Well, offensively, I'm not sure that you're just going to consistently have like that third scorer. I mean, some nights it could be Burke, some nights it could be Abram, it could be Cade Phillips, you name it. But I do think it's good that they don't sit around and watch Ament and Gillespie. I think if those two are combining for 30 field goal attempts while everybody else is just trying to get offensive rebounds, there's going to be some nights where they're both going off, yes, but I don't think that's going to give them the sustained success offensively, and that's where you're seeing a more balanced attack this evening.
Ament dumps it down low. Entry pass is denied and scooped up by Rice. A steal on the play. Great defense from Nick Anderson. Ahead of the pack, open three from the wing. In rhythm, it's Jalen Smith.
Yeah, I think he's a really talented player. A good defender, ball handler, scorer. Abram really bothered him early with the ball pressure, but he settled in since then. That's 2 in blue.
3 years at SMU with Coach Lanier, and now 1 year after a redshirt season a year ago as a Rice Owl. Here's Gillespie. Alley-oop. Much more of that in the second half, perhaps. We saw it work to perfection in the first half. That's Cade Phillips on the business end of the alley-oop.
That was so much more than a pick and roll. The amount of action on that play on both sides of the court. You had curls from Ament, then you had dribble handoffs, rolls to the basket. Really good basketball that leads to this lob. And Rice said, you can't let the roller get behind the defender. Don't let him get behind you. And if he does, somebody's got to come over and help.
Cade Phillips, you want to talk about some bloodlines going back to the state of Alabama. His dad, John David Phillips, his uncle, Brody Croyle, and grandfather, John Croyle, all played football for the Crimson Tide. And now they love him as a Tennessee Volunteer. That doesn't always work out real well with those two schools.
He's tough as nails. I mean, you see that shoulder padding that he has. I mean, this guy just goes to battle every single practice, so physical. He toughed it out last year, too. I know how bad that shoulder was hurting him, and he never complained, just kept showing up and kept trying to help his team.
Gillespie brings it in the front court for Tennessee and set up the offense here. Up top to Ament. Another paint touch for Akpara, and he'll go to the free throw line. Felix Akpara out of Lagos, Nigeria, which has produced so many great college basketball players over the years. Seems like there's always a couple on SEC rosters. He's closing in on 200 career blocks. Not a big scorer, but a guy that will rim protect with the best of them.
His terrific instincts when he is going to block shots. I mean, he goes up there and he either disrupts the shot or swats it away. His timing is what makes him such an elite shot blocker.
I'm gonna throw a name at you that I know you can handle. Jarvis Bernardo.
Oh yeah, I mean the legend, Mississippi State.
What did he average? 4 a game?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure I know he had some in the double digits at times.
And he wasn't a guy that was going to give you a bunch of points, but man, could he affect the game just with his rim protection. Broadnax backing the defender in, fade and fire, everything but the bucket.
Yeah, just one of those nights so far for Broadnax. Such a talented scorer, just has not been able to get one to fall.
Now 0 for 12 from the field. Amen, not going to turn that one down. And held on the play, going for the rebound is Okpara.
I think Ament was a little surprised how open he got off that action, hesitated a little bit. Okpara staying really active on this end of the court. Okpara off to a little bit of a slow start in this young season, but I think he's been really productive here. 8 points, 6 rebounds, and just the energy and the 50-50 balls, as you saw right there.
Ament on the inbounds to Gillespie. And Gillespie on the reset up top. Alley-oop pass. There it is again in heavy traffic. And a 2-hand flush. Cade Phillips. 6 dunks on the night for Tennessee. Most of them coming on the alley-oop variety. Shake and bake, drive, and a foul drawn on Nate Ament.
Well, and Rice instructed them, if the role defender needs help, 32, you got to come over. He's like, I did come over, but they lobbed that thing right over my head. I was in great help defense, just too little too late. And Cade Phillips, I think this is a guy that very well could lead Tennessee in their field goal percentage, because he takes high quality looks, he catches it high, he finishes above the rim, and man, just throws it on the money, does Gillespie.
Well, this is a teaching moment for the freshman Nate Ament. He just picked up his 3rd foul with over 17 minutes to go in a situation where he didn't need to, Dane, and that's something that Rick Barnes is going to put him on the bench and let him think about it, right?
Right, and I think it goes back to his 2nd foul right before the half. I mean, he did that about 85 feet away from the basket.
Right.
And just one of those things, you've got to understand your value to the team.
He's too valuable a player to not have him on the floor for a lot of minutes in the 2nd half. Great ball movement, sets up the 3 for Ethan Berg.
He's looked really good in this one. He's been a little bit turnover prone in the first few games, but right now he has been penetrating. He's playing off 2 feet. His turnovers early were always him jumping in the air off 1 foot. Been way more under control in this game and been rewarded with some kickbacks and threes.
Nice pull-up jumper by Anderson. Going back to Berg, he played for the Israeli Basketball Super League the last 2 years. He comes in already 23 years of age with a lot of valuable experience. Gillespie up top, going to work on Smith. Goes to Abram, who thought that he was going to have Phillips diving in the basket, but that didn't happen.
This is just, again, great ball movement and just continuing to move without the ball as well. Penetrate, kick, and that's just the beauty of having 2 point guards on the court at the same time. Abram, another ball handler in there with that particular group, but we talked early in the first half, the versatility of this Tennessee team. They can play extremely big if they need to. Nate Ament is starting at the 3. Heck, they could move him to the 2 some if you needed to with the amount of bigs they have.
That's what Rick Barnes told us. He said ideally he wouldn't mind playing Ament more at the 2-guard spot.
Well, and then if you need to, you can play extremely small as well for round 1.
And Anderson sinks the triple from the corner, and there's Rice just again hanging around. 12-point game.
Anderson's having himself a nice game. 12 points off 4 of 9 shooting.
Berg's had the hot hand. Look at that little nifty one-handed shot put, and then a foul, a hold on Rice. And that'll bring us to immediate timeout as we step aside. 15:47 to go. Volunteers up by 12 over the Owls. 15:47 to go. It's Tennessee on top of Rice 48-36. We talked about that magical 2018 season and what it meant for Tennessee to win the SEC. That really got it all started with Rick Barnes. Dane, how often do you hear blue bloods in college basketball? Well, obviously Kentucky is a blue blood. But people, I think, with the success of this league lately, recognize there are new bloods. These 6 teams, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, and Tennessee, this is what they've done just since the 2017-18 season. 15 SEC titles, 35 trips to the Big Dance, 10 Elite Eights, 4 Final Fours, and 1 national championship last year by the Gators. Again, you and I were around when this league was struggling to get 4 teams in the Big Dance. Now you've got some fresh blood that have become powerhouses in college basketball.
Yeah, it was typically just Kentucky and Florida.
Right.
And you look back to the 14-15 era, and to see not only those programs rebuild, but do so with consistency year after year. There is legit traditions happening. People are taking their kids to ball games. Their kids that grew up loving Auburn basketball are now in college.
Right.
I mean, that's how you build tradition around your program. And it just continues to get better and better in this league, where you had 14 teams and a record make the NCAA tournament. And while they, the league has had a few losses this year that are respectable. Florida losing to Arizona, Michigan State beating Arkansas. There's been some great victories as well, but none of those real bad losses. It just seemed like year after year, the SEC would start non-conference play, and you'd see somebody drop a game to a Rice or whoever it might be. And so far, the SEC's dodging that bullet, and that keeps their strength of schedule and analytics and everything else up for the rest of the season.
Well, and November, December, sometimes you're fighting the football calendar this time of year, but one thing you know about the all-important net rankings and the committee, those quality wins in November, December, when it comes to the metrics, they still count just as much. In fact, the 89% non-conference record last year for the SEC, that's how you get 14 teams in.
Yeah, they did their work early, did the SEC, and then, of course, the record they had in the ACC Challenge certainly didn't hurt either. But by the time they got to league play, it was just quad 1 opportunity after quad 1 opportunity.
Not many nights off in this conference. Same type of depth expected this year. We just showed that graphic with Kentucky and the new bloods as Berg fires another triple. But think of all the teams on the periphery as well. Swatted away by Gillespie. Great defense standing his ground. And Tennessee will go in transition here. Gillespie puts it in high gear. Off the window. He missed it. The follow, yes. The tip by Okpara. And Tennessee right now starting to amp it up.
And Okpara's energy level, his activity has been as good as it's been all season. Just anticipating where that ball is going to go and battling for every board.
He's flirting with a double-double, 10 points, 8 rebounds. And then an and one on the other end. Cam Carroll, who's played well tonight.
You mentioned Okpara on his way to a double-double. First, Gillespie's going to get a block here. If he didn't get it, Okpara was. And then on the other end, for Rice, Carroll, who's got a young freshman that's just unafraid. I mean, this kid has embraced the opportunity to play on a big stage here on the road at a Power 4 school.
Third foul on Henderson on that play. Tennessee setting things up. Berg already with 3 threes on the night. Tries the entry pass. That'll be a kick basketball. 20 on the shot clock.
I think he got fortunate with that kick, too. That looked like it was about to be a forced entry pass turnover. And I really like the way he's been moving, not only with the ball and the penetration, but without it. Berg's energy level on the offensive end in particular, I think, has really made Tennessee be a well-oiled machine.
Amen from the corner. Thought about it. Wants it back here. He's on the hunt. Amen. Step back 3 and draws the foul. You could just see the body language. Nate Ament made up his mind on that possession. It was going up.
And it's such a tough thing for a young kid and a dynamic scorer when your coaches are saying, hey, work on better shot selection. And then if you aren't aggressive enough, they're saying, hey, look for yours more. Initiate the offense more. Be assertive. And so that's the balance that Amen is going to have to find. But even though he forced the issue quite a bit in that exhibition game against Duke, you'd much rather have to reel a player in,
right,
as opposed to say, hey, that was Duke. you need to get out there and prove you belong.
Yeah.
And Ament is a guy you do not have to worry about from that standpoint.
Don't be afraid of the moment. And the other thing, just seeing him up close for the first time, you watch the form. It's awfully pretty. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that right there, the flick of the wrist, right?
And that high release that Rick Barnes players, especially his post players, the LaMarcus Aldridge of the world, the Grant Williams, and of course Kevin Durant getting above his head really quickly, really unblockable.
Ament joins Gillespie now, both in double figures with 10. Pass down low to Iwa, trying to carve out some space. He was suffocated by Jalen Carey.
Berg really wants a challenge there. They're waving him off. But nice suffocating trap down below here. Seeing Giwa really in no man's land. I thought that ball went off blue.
Shot clock under 10 for the Owls. Rise and fire. Got it. Man, Cam Carroll with a little flurry here. And again, Rice will not go away. It's an 11-point game. Ament gets it back on the return from Carey. Drive left, turn, fire, and draws another foul. You get the feeling tonight, if he wanted to, he could kind of do that all night.
Yeah. And he's got really nice patience on his drives. If you cut him off, he does like to spin. He'll turn his back to the defense. I think that's a good move for him. It allows him to square up to the basket. One thing he's going to have to watch out for as he does the spin, the scouting report is going to be, hey, when he spins, offside defender, come trap that ball. And he'll just have to be aware of that.
One of the highest recruits in Tennessee history, depending on which recruiting service you look at. Everybody had him as a top 5 guy. The highest recruit since Tobias Harris back in 2010. And before that, you got to go back to Allen Houston in 1989. Talk about a guy with a pretty shot. And one for Tennessee, just crashing. And there's Jalen Carey. Boy, they hope to see a lot more of that from the former Vanderbilt Commodore.
Well, and on a missed free throw, you should never give up that sort of positioning. But Carey gets rewarded for that effort, and he just dances around the box out. Great mobility by the big man, almost like shedding a blocker and getting to the quarterback.
I don't know. You and I saw a lot of Jalen Carey last year in a Vanderbilt uniform. He just seems quicker this year.
And it was cool that he asked my permission to wear 23.
Yeah, did money change hands? I mean, that would be legal now. I'm sure you charge a pretty penny.
My parents get that joke. They know what my number was.
Rice with the ball under 13 minutes to go. And again, I've been impressed with Cam Carroll here of late. They've got a couple of guards that have played well in this game. Carroll as well as Jalen Smith.
And look, sometimes it's easy to be super aggressive when you're down double digits. But Carroll's been this way since the start of the game. This isn't somebody that's like, all right, well, we're down, nothing to lose. Let me start, just playing really aggressive. He has come in with a mindset that he's here to put on a show and help his team win since the opening tip.
Carroll knocks down the first. The story, of course, it's always been a pleasure to talk to Coach Lanier, but he's very open about the fact how things went down at SMU. He didn't do a terrible job there at all, but sometimes life's not fair, and you never know who an athletic director is going to want to have. He goes ahead and goes out west to land his coach, and really that really caused a chain reaction of changes that affected, among other things, Dane, the SEC.
Yeah, that was a real shocker when SMU made a coaching change. And what it did was, Andy Enfield from Southern Cal takes the SMU job. Musselman from Arkansas takes the Southern Cal job. And I forget, who took the Arkansas job? John Calipari from Kentucky. So it's the coaching carousel. Does Rob Lanier, if Rob Lanier is still at SMU, I don't see any of that happening because Musselman, I don't think he was hunting to leave Arkansas, but a West Coast guy at USC was the right opportunity.
We might see a similar chain reaction with Lane Kiffin, to use an SEC football analogy. As the ball is blocked out of bounds at the 12-minute mark. And we will take a media timeout here. Tennessee up by 15. How about the night so far for Jacoby Gillespie?
Yeah, just does a nice job of relocating, using that flare screen, shot ready, cash money.
Rick Barnes using every moment he can of this one to have some teaching moments. Tennessee up by 15 in this game over the Rice Owls. We talked about the ascension of the SEC in recent years in terms of winning and NCAA tournament postseason success. How about just exciting action? You look at this right now, Dane. The SEC among all the conferences in college basketball, #1 in points. Never met somebody that doesn't like that. #1 in possessions per game. #1 in three-point attempts per game. So, again, a far cry from what it was, say, 10 years ago. It's a real exciting brand of basketball in this league.
Well, we knew what Bruce Pearl was doing at Auburn with their ability to shoot the three. They can play up-tempo and that style of play. And then we saw Dennis Gates at Missouri start to bring that in. And then really over the past, and of course Alabama under Nate Oates, and really over the past 2 or 3 seasons, you've started to see other coaches change their philosophy, and successful coaches. I mean, you look at Chris Jans at Mississippi State, terrific coach, yes, right? But used to be a guy you'd say, man, they're going to win that game 60-56. Now they're winning games 90-84.
Yes.
Chris Beard at Ole Miss, the outstanding job he's done. You think about their defense first. They set a school record last year with 303. So it's not just the Nate Oates type programs. It's all the other coaches that have evolved and said, hey, this is the way the game is going. And oh, by the way, a little bit easier to recruit to 90 points per game as opposed to 60 points per game.
It's such a good point. You know, every now and then a game's going to turn into a rock fight, but I think now the skill has matched the athleticism in this league, where it's the most exciting brand of basketball we've seen in the SEC in a long time, as Cam Carroll delivers another triple. He has been the microwave here in this second half. Gillespie leading all scorers with 13 tonight. One of the prize portal additions in the country. Broadnax has been quiet tonight. At some point, you know he's going to get a bucket. Father in attendance tonight, the former Georgetown Hoya, Horace Broadnax, who won a national title in 1985. And you see Trey Broadnax, he's going to have much better nights. Again, their success in the American is going to rely heavily on number 12 in blue. Dane, contrary to popular belief, you are not a volume shooter, but anybody can relate to an off night. When you're having the kind of night that Trey is having, what do you do?
Well, I think he's done the right thing. He's continued to hunt his shot because when your team's relying on you to score, you can't shut down. And I've not seen him sulk. You can tell maybe he's a little bit frustrated, but his body language has been really good. And you can see just with the way he plays why Coach Lanier thinks so highly of him and his character. And we started in the first half talking about it. Coach Lanier challenging Broadnax and saying, hey, look, you're one of the best kids I have ever met, and you check every character box. But the phrase he used was, you kind of do it in a silo to yourself. Like, I need you to be that guy for everybody else and lead by example, and also some with your voice, get in the best shape of your life, and be a guy for us that we can call a captain. And Broadnax has been able to step into that role for this Rice team, and that's a big thing about leadership. Anybody can lead when you're hit 5 threes in a row. When you're 0 for 12, where's your leadership?
Yeah. The other thing is it has not affected the rest of his game. He's still out there playing hard, defending, not turning it over, not forcing a bunch of bad shots. That's a good shot, and that rattles out. Man, oh man. If he didn't have bad luck tonight, he wouldn't have any luck at all. 0 for 13 from the field.
But young kids, all he does is shake his head, get back on defense, and talk and bust through screens.
Yep.
I mean, that's all you can do.
Coach Lanier's not going to give up on him anytime soon. Another offensive rebound for what's annually one of the best rebounding teams in the country. Ament hanging and can't hit it. Tapped around. Ament gets it back off the window and in. Stick-to-itiveness by the 6'10 freshman out of the state of Virginia, Nate Ament. A little nickel and dimer on Ethan Berg. If you're just joining us, J.P. Estrella had a scary, they call it a leg injury. They're not going to get any more specific than that. He's not returning. You see he's got ice around that left knee, and obviously everybody is just hoping and praying for the best news possible.
J.P. Estrella, again, we mentioned it, but his voice at practice, his leadership, and him playing the best basketball of his young career, just a redshirt sophomore. And all last season, as good as Tennessee was doing, you kept saying every shoot around, man, if they just had Estrella. Man, if they just had another big down low. I mean, that was the missing piece, I felt like, for them to beat a team like Houston, advance to a Final Four. So you certainly hope that he can get back and be fully healthy for this team.
Akpara off his pogo stick with another two-hand slam. He's got 12 points, 8 rebounds tonight. 7 dunks for the Volunteers so far. I thought that was going to be 8, but instead Akpara shows a little finesse near the rim, and a timeout called by Rice not a moment too soon. Largest lead for Tennessee, 18-point advantage with 9:02 to go in Knoxville. Tennessee has its largest lead of the night, 67-49 with 9:02 to go. Mike Morgan, Dane Bradshaw. We're doing the TV broadcast tonight on the SEC network. The radio team has a new voice and a new analyst by the name of Chris Lofton, the pride of Mason County, 2004 Mr. Kentucky basketball. A former teammate of yours, Dane, and still one of the best shooters I've ever seen in the SEC.
Yeah, he's got a great mentor to his right, our left, and Mike Keith, new voice of the Vols. But Chris Lofton, I mean, what more can you say about him? One of the best underdog stories ever. This guy was recruited by Arkansas, Little Rock, Valparaiso, and then Tennessee. We came in late, and we had a scholarship open up. And I just remember he did not get off to a great start. He wasn't good in agility drills. He was slow. In individual workouts, we'd kind of snicker in the back, like, I know he's Mr. Kentucky, but they must have had a down year this year. And then I remember him just in individual workouts. And all of a sudden he started making these kind of fadeaway, tough shots. You're like, man, I can't believe he's making that lucky nonsense. And then did the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And you realized if you had any plans of playing the two-guard spot, you better find another position.
Everybody knew it was coming, and he was never that big, but he always got the shot off. And, man, when it was going up, you thought it was in. There's a two-handed slam for Giwa, the 6'9 senior out of Houston, Texas. And a steal by Rice. Their turnover from Tennessee. Spin and kick sets up another three. And a long rebound tracked down by Berg into the hands of Ament. Ament up top. Mismatch here. Instead goes to Gillespie. Alley-oop, another one. 8 Tennessee dunks. And about a half a dozen of them on alley-oops.
Gillespie's probing of the defense, the pace and IQ he plays with is a really encouraging sign for this Tennessee team.
Tough rebound in traffic for Ament. He's now got 12 points, 7 rebounds.
We'll take a look at Gillespie as we go to break. He's going to come off the screen, playing off the ball, and just look at his pace. He's going to get in the lane, pause, freeze the defense, look for his teammate, head up. This kid is a dynamite.
7:47 to go. Tennessee on top by 18. Mike Morgan with Dane Bradshaw. We talked about that man, Jacoby Gillespie, who's so far 13 points, 7 assists on the night. Been a heck of a journey for him to get to Knoxville.
It has. He brought Greenville High School their first state title and did it again his senior year. And again, that was during COVID times, and all of a sudden it was harder to get those Power 4 type scholarship offers because there were so many extra years and transfer portal and all that. So he goes to Belmont, shines there, goes to Maryland, shines there, and now he's at his dream school And sure, I'm glad he checked his voicemail, because when he entered his name in the transfer portal, Rick Barnes' number he thought was spam. He just, I'm not answering that. and fortunately, he calls back fortunately for him and for Rick Barnes. But I just love his demeanor. There is something special. I'm not saying he wants it any more than his teammates, but when you grow up wanting to wear the orange and white, it has a little extra motivation to you, and you know he doesn't take this opportunity for granted.
Well, and it didn't come easy. Tennessee had guards during that time when he's coming out of high school in Greenville, Tennessee. I mentioned 75 miles east of Knoxville. You know, and that's during that time too, where guys were getting COVID years, so you had a glut of young men at that position. So it wasn't an easy path to get to his dream school. And sometimes when you have to fight that hard for it to happen, you appreciate it a little bit more.
Belmont's had a list of stars come out of that program. Those guys are finding the stars before the Power
They really
Four
are,
schools
aren't they?
Yep.
And of course, and now if you're a great mid-major program that finds those diamonds in the rough, you're almost like a feeder program for the Power 4, Power 5 schools.
And then in exchange, the mid-majors end up getting the Power 4 guys that didn't work out, that have less confidence.
Very true.
Else.
Ament on a steal. Finds Gillespie in transition. Missed the layup. And Gillespie hit the deck, and we've got a whistle and a foul on Rice.
He missed the layup, but Gillespie,
you saw the extra gear
from, I mean, without the ball in his hands, just on a dead sprint, shows you how quickly this kid can go from one end to the other.
Rice will give way to Tennessee quite a bit at the free throw line now, as the Volunteers will enjoy the double bonus the rest of the way. 7:41 to go, and the largest lead now for Tennessee, 20 points, as the Vols look to improve to 4-0 on the season. Nice tap out that time. An underrated play. Cade Phillips buys the Vols an extra possession. Gillespie muscling his way to the basket. Missed another one from close range. Gillespie thought he was fouled.
It's a good job here, playing off 2 feet, just unable to get the finish. But I think they were more surprised that they didn't get the possession.
Dallas Hobbs working on Berg, going up top to Broadnax. Hobbs, spin move, had it poked away. Shot clock now to 7. Here's Broadnax going to work. Broadnax looking for his first bucket. Broadnax fade and fire, can't buy it. 0 for 16 for their leading scorer. I don't know if I remember quite a night like that for a young man that has such a great scoring prowess.
And I thought Coach Lanier did the right thing too. They took him out of the game for a few minutes, just catch your breath, clear your head, and that time got stuck in a tough situation late in the clock. But I will say I'm impressed with this Rice team. They're going to more than compete in the American. A year where Memphis might be down in that conference, other teams are licking their chops thinking this might be our year.
Strong take and a foul drawn. Iguagi was caught in a Tennessee sandwich.
And this is a Rice program that has not gone to the NCAA tournament since 1970.
I couldn't believe that when I saw it.
Is this a tough job? Yes.
Yes.
So you talk about an opportunity for Coach Rob Lanier and this staff to make history. They could do it right here at Rice.
If you're wondering, famous Rice alums, and I know you are, Ricky Pierce, that'll win the bar bet. Ricky Pierce was a Rice Owl.
No one ever questions your prep. Can't ever question.
I try so hard to just impress Dane Bradshaw once during the 40 minutes of action, 2 hours of airtime.
You could have said any name I would have nodded my head.
I mean, you're a tough crowd. You're a really tough crowd. Speaking of tough crowds, this crowd is all over Igagui. It's nothing personal, but if he misses 2 free throws in a row, you got 3 Chick-fil-A. No dice. No soup for you.
They should do that, but make it only valid for Sundays. And really, and just do a test of what customer feedback.
Well, you are playing with fire, my friend. That's a very sensitive subject. Inside carry, little bully ball. And a whistle and a foul. That's going to go against Oladokun.
Well, in every single one of Tennessee's victories, they have essentially doubled up their opponent with paint points. It's been roughly 44 to 22 in each of the victories on average. And in this one, it is 40 to 12.
Oladokun just fouled out of the ball game for Rice. He's still in there now. So what are we doing? Did they change the foul? They did. So Oladokun will get a reprieve with 4 fouls. As the free throw is knocked down by Cade Phillips. You know, we talked about those top 6 programs that have kind of been the new bloods, and of course joining Kentucky, that have had so much success in this league since 2018. I'm going to put you on the spot here in a moment, Dane. Carey on the breakaway. Look out! Nobody getting in Jalen Carey's way. That's 6'8", 267 coming right at you.
That looked like a defensive tackle playing intramurals. I mean, wow. That looked like he was about to bring the whole goal down.
Dad Vernon played in the NFL for 8 years. That's where he gets that frame from. A little bit taller than Dad, but just as physical. Late clock situation for Rice and a foul called with 5:23 to go. Watch.
Good advance
Jalen
pass
Carey.
here. Yeah, Gillespie's going to get the quick hands, and Carey was trailing the play a little bit and says, look what I found. The easiest 2 he'll have.
I actually had my introduction to Jalen Carey was the Sun Belt Championship game with James Madison a couple of years ago, and then of course he and his head coach both wind up at Vanderbilt last year. Vanderbilt, I thought, was one of the best stories in all of college basketball, getting back to the big dance. And then Carey was highly coveted in the portal and takes the short drive over to Knoxville. Major pickup for Tennessee.
Well, and he and Zakai Ziegler got into it right here on this court last year, where threw the ball at each other. Might have been a double technical, can't quite remember. So Zakai Ziegler going to come back to campus and be like, I told you wanted to wear that orange. I was trying to tell you want to be here.
Pretty stroke by Ament, but it's a round and out. 18 points Carey had last year against Tennessee.
Mark Byington, I mean, those guys are getting up over 100 every single game, it seems like.
Breakaway for Ament. 16 points now to lead all Tennessee scores. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Vandy. We talked about the great job Chris Jans has done at Mississippi State. So let's get out of that 6-team bubble. We know how the expectations level are for those 6 teams. We also know there's always other good teams in this league that are probably going to be dancing in March. Who do you like outside of the Big Six?
I'm really curious to see how Texas does under first-year Coach Miller. I think they've looked pretty good so far. They're going to be very competitive. As Gillespie knocks another one down, and it's just starting to fall a little bit apart for Rice. But I think Texas is one to keep an eye on. And look, I think a lot of people were maybe expecting a little bit of a letdown, and one for Ament with Bruce Pearl changing guard and Stephen Pearl. But what an effort they showed against Houston, 1-possession game. But right now it's all about Tennessee, not the rest of the SEC, as they show you just how dynamic they can be. That is a freshman, folks, Nate Ament, putting up big numbers once again.
Time now for our All-State Good Hands play, brought to you by All-State. Jacoby Gillespie dropping dimes, 8 on the game to go along with 17 points.
Well, you know you've got a great point guard when he makes the people around him better. And I think he's had a tremendous feel for the game. He has been on time, on target with his passes. He puts it where nobody else can get it but his teammates. And when you have a guy like that to play with, you better know, hey, when the ball is in his hands, you better not stand still, because if you move, he will find you. And this is a guy that was one of 4 players in the country last year to rank in the top 40 in steals, assists, and assist-to-turnover ratio. So he does so much more than just score. And included in those 4 players, a guy by the name of Braden Smith at Purdue, who everybody looks at as potential National Player of the Year.
That's an incredible addition to be able to get a guy. And again, so many of the great portal pickups are from mid-major backgrounds. Sometimes the question is, okay, yeah, he did it at that level. How does he do in a league like the SEC? Well, Gillespie did it in the Big Ten and did it very well. 83-57. Tennessee starting to pour it on here from about the 10-minute mark on to the second half. And a 3. Rice will keep firing. That's Nick Anderson on the triple.
That's a little bit of that half-court trap that they struggled with to end the first half. They're trying to test out a little bit of a new-look defense. And so far, they've given up some bad defensive possessions on, including that 3.
Big to big, down low, carve out some space, and then bank it home. Akpara continues a great night at the office now. 18 points and 8 rebounds.
Well, there's still some old school components to this Tennessee offense. Just a simple high-low. One big catches it high around the free throw line, and he tries to lob it down low for the other big.
It's a staple of Rick Barnes too. You can go all the way back to Providence, to Clemson, to Texas, and now Tennessee always has one of the most physical teams no matter what league he's in.
Well, I think Coach Barnes continues to want to get his team better, get reps, even though the game's out of hand. Look, 3 minutes left. You got Gillespie and Ament still in the game. That just shows you that they're continuing to try to work on things, knowing that they're still trying to figure out what their best lineups are and play calls.
Gillespie did not get away with the push-off. Pretty easy call for our officiating crew tonight.
I think they're starting to sit on that right hand a little bit. Yeah. He's been going hard in that direction.
Well, after this ball game, Tennessee's going to have Tennessee State. That's in a couple of days here at the friendly confines. And then it's off to Vegas, where you play Rutgers, Houston. That's #1 Houston. And then, of course, the third game will be depending on the bracket, but that'll be a heck of a test for Tennessee and another chance for the SEC to flex its muscle.
I know Tennessee fans can't wait to see a stronger test, but I like the way Rick Barnes has scheduled. You know, hey, you've got a new roster, yes, with plenty of guys returning, but a new leading scorer that you expect in 8 minutes. Of course, Gillespie running the show, but they'll get plenty battle tested here in the non-conference, and then welcome to SEC play, where it's going to be night in, night out once again.
And you saw the other matchups to start the month of December at Syracuse and Illinois. The Syracuse game is part of the SEC-ACC Challenge, which was completely dominated by the SEC last year. See if the ACC has improved at all this season.
You can't have much more of an efficient game than Carroll has.
No.
I think the freshman is 5 of 6, 14 points, 3 assists, just 1 turnover.
Yeah. Just a freshman from Grand Prairie, Texas. He came in averaging only 3 points a game. First 3 fired up by Troy Henderson. Speaking of freshmen, Henderson, entry pass down low, and that's Dwayne Brown, the other freshman.
That's a great angle by Henderson, and Brown sealing off the defender. But that's what you get when you're learning from other people in practice, and this is how we do it. That's the continuity from having other older players that can show you in the drills, and this is how we want it done, and that's how you seal. And Brown has just been an absolute grown man. It's going to be hard to keep him out of the rotation despite the depth they have.
I have 1:54 to put you on the spot one more time, yes. Dan Bradshaw. Nate Ament, certainly you can see why he is so highly touted in the preseason newcomer of the year for the Tennessee Volunteer freshman. It's a great year for freshmen across the land in college basketball. How about some other names the fans tuning in throughout the year in the SEC can expect and look to see?
You know, I was really impressed the other night with A.J. DeBonsa over at BYU. big-time name, but they were going up against UConn. First half against UConn. You know how tough Dan Hurley's defense is. Devonta was not having a good game. And I thought, all right, this is welcome to physical college basketball. And all he did in the second half was absolutely explode, dominate. They lose the game, but he put up close to 30, and that showed me a lot about the mental toughness. We saw Koa Pete, what he did for Arizona against Florida, against some really good bigs there.
How about in this league? Kentucky's got a couple awfully good ones in Lexington this year. Now it's going to be awfully hard to dethrone Nate Ament. You can just see, as you mentioned, 3-level scorer. There's just a whole lot of good in his game.
I think one thing to keep an eye on too is just the SEC has grown, rightfully so, with the reputation as the most physical league in the country. So when you have these freshmen, you talk about a chance to hit a wall in the SEC. There's a chance there. They're going to have to learn really quickly through their strength coaches about body recovery and conditioning, diet, all those things if they want to perform at their best in this league.
Well, and you look at last year's national champs, the Florida Gators. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of freshmen that they leaned on, and a lot of veterans on that team. Sometimes older is still better in college basketball, right? You can have a bunch of 5-star kids, but you got to have some veterans that have been there, done that, if you're going to win a lot of games, particularly in the postseason.
And as Okpara checks out, career high for him. He's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start this season, but he was all over the place in this one. 20 points, 8 boards.
Under a minute to go here in Knoxville. Tennessee on their way to a 4-0 start. Volleyball near the net. And a nice layup, but not good in transition. Anderson had that one. Love to have it back. He'll get a chance to redeem himself here. Finds it. Easy two-hand slam for Dwayne Brown. And Tennessee with another dominating performance. 91 points and a 91-66 victory. The Volunteers 10 dunks in that equation to go along with a half a dozen threes and 18 offensive rebounds. The Volunteers and those two men who have known each other, great friends, colleagues for so many years, a great embrace at midcourt. Dane Bradshaw, some final thoughts.
Well, Tennessee doing what the Volunteers do. That's dominate the paint, as they have in all their victories so far this season. And they're second in the country, averaging 23 assists per game, and that's exactly the number they hit. They've got stars, they've got talent, but they don't play one-on-one ISO basketball. This is a team with a lot of chemistry right now, early in this season.
Gillespie was great. So too was the true freshman Nate Ament. A double-double, 19 points, 10 rebounds as his young career continues to skyrocket. That'll do it for us, for Dane Bradshaw and our entire SEC Network crew. This is Mike Morgan saying so long from Knoxville. Tennessee wins it 91-66 over the Rice Owls.